Welcome everyone back for our next talk for the day, and we have a new guest today with us, Natasha Russell, owner of Natasha Russell Events. And today we are going to talk with you about how to build a successful events career. Before we go to the questions, I want to introduce quickly Natasha. You have been working in event production and management for over a decade. Starting in the charity sector, you found yourself moving to the freelance world for the freedom to create a greater variety of events. So in 2012, you became a self-employed event professional, researching and developing event concepts and briefs, producing and managing events and budgets for various agencies before winning contracts to deliver projects directly. You have worked across a variety of roles and sectors, covering everything from mass participation sport events to corporate conferences, festivals, and parties. So do you have anything to add to your career journey, Natasha, before we go to the questions?
I don't think so. I mean, I've pretty much done everything. I've done promo work. I've worked from the bottom right the way up to the top. So yeah, we've pretty much covered it.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, and as we go along, you can tell a little bit more about your projects. But let's talk first about your career journey, because you fell into the events industry. So let us know how you got into events and your journey.
Yes, so I don't think I ever really had an idea what I wanted to do when I was at school or anything. And I really loved languages, so I studied languages at university. I think vaguely somewhere at college, someone said you could be a TV presenter, so that sounded quite good, but obviously that didn't work out. But part of my university degree was I lived in Germany and I worked for Uni Transfer at the University of Hanover. Mm-hmm. And I worked on the Expo 2000 event, so a small bit of that. And then I went back to university, carried on, didn't know what to do, worked for the civil service, absolutely detested it, which anyone who worked with me there knows. I'm right up to my boss who I'm still in touch with. And so from there, I moved into the charity sector, and that's when I started doing events, and I've just stayed there the whole time.
Mm-hmm. You climbed up the career ladder, and you didn't do an events degree. Do you think that it's still possible to work your way up without a degree? And especially now that the competition on the market is so high?
I do, I think. So I was thinking about this, and I remember right when I started working in events for Cancer Research UK, I asked a colleague, should I go back and do a degree? And she said, no, you'll learn everything you need to know here. And one of my bits of advice to people who ask me how to get into events is go work for Cancer Research UK, work on their internship scheme they do for their events program, because literally I learned everything from how to put on an event to marketing, PR, I mean, I guess social media now, but public speaking, just every facet of events was covered. And I just think experience is really important. And I think you can get a lot from a degree. I'm not going to say to anyone, don't go to university, because university in itself is an amazing experience. And if you want to go into events and you know that, then go do that. But equally, you could do any subject. It, for me, is about experience. And I've met so many people and given them advice on how to get started, and none of them have gone to uni, and they're all working. And I just think it's experience that really is the key. So doing everything, and like I say, I started at the bottom and I worked my way up, and then I went straight back to the bottom again when I went freelance. And I've just done so much. I mean, I started my freelance career I wasn't even planning to start my freelance career. I was trying to work out what I wanted to do. and I was doing promotional work, and I
Mm-hmm.
put flyers through doors, and
Yeah.
I dressed up as a costume character. I'd never ever admit that to anyone normally, but you know, I did all these things, but now I understand those sides of the events
Absolutely.
world as well.
Yeah, you have to
So
start from the
it's
bottom to also, when you have employees and you delegate them some tasks, you have to know how these tasks need to be done.
yeah.
And yeah, I did an events degree, and I remember one of our teachers always saying that what a degree can give you is strategic thinking. It's not about just the textbooks, but it's really to help you develop a strategic thinking about the field you intend to work in. And you talk often about taking opportunities. They come on jobs, for example, when you meet someone or you just proactively approach someone and you look for opportunities. What are such opportunities, and where do you find them?
Like, I've done this in so many different ways. It's one of those things. I think Dagmar earlier was talking about being brave, and I would not say I'm a brave person, but when I look back, it is about being brave, and I have done some stuff that scares me. I worked for Cancer Research UK, and I knew I wanted to move on, and I wasn't sure in what way I wanted to move on, whether that be within the company or externally. And I applied for jobs, and I got offered this 6-month contract doing what was essentially a marketing campaign in music festivals for a new charity, for Oxfam. And it was a 6-month contract, and every part of me screamed, "This is insane. You could be employed in 6 months," which is what happened. But the other part of me just thought, all I've ever said I want to do is work in music events. So why would I not take the opportunity to work in a music event scenario? So I did that, and I think after that, it was just reaching out to people that I had met in that world to try and get freelance work when I went freelance. Being brave enough, like I say, so after Oxfam, I did a couple more jobs, and I went to work at the Olympics. And then I wanted to take the time to really find the right job. And the thing I did there was be brave enough to say, okay, as long as I can pay my mortgage, then I'm okay. And my friend was doing this promotional work. And so I just registered with every single promotional company out there and went to do that. So it was about, you know, being brave about that, but also, I think I've told some people the story before that actually my first freelance job came from, I used to work in a bar. And one of the regular customers, he'd love it if he was watching this, he kept saying to me, "I've got a friend that works in events." And I was like, yeah, whatever, I'm sure they do. And he was like, "No, they've really got an events company." And I was like, yeah, sure, I'm sure they do. And it got to the stage I had nothing to lose. So he told me a bit more about his company. And by pure fluke, I sat next to the guy that owned this company, having my lunch at a festival. I didn't realize who he was. And I realized afterwards. And then someone said to me, "Oh yeah, that is this person." And I was like, "Oh, okay." I saw him later and I said, hi, I'm Kenny's friend. And he said, "What are you doing here?" And I said, "Oh, I manage this area." And he said, "Your toilets are flooding." I was on a festival site in a VIP area. "Toilets are flooding, sort it." And that was the first words he said to me. And I just thought, well, I've got to sort this flooding out. So I did that. And 2 weeks later, I just gave him a call. And he said, "Yeah, I can give you a freelance job for 2 weeks."
Because he liked how you managed the crisis situation.
And I think that's it. And the other story I always tell about just being brave about where you look is the contract I had as a runner on a BBC event, but that was advertised on Gumtree. They just said, "Oh, we want a runner for the event." For an event. It could have been so dodgy. I still work for that company now, but and we joke about it. They don't know why they put the advert on Gumtree. I don't know why I was on Gumtree looking for work. But, you know, those opportunities are there, and it's just about
Yeah.
talking to everyone you meet, and also don't dismiss anyone. I've heard so many people say, well, I don't want to work in this field, so it doesn't matter how I behave here.
Yeah.
But you guys all know I work at Glastonbury.
Yeah.
I've done a few jobs at Glastonbury, but I currently work in the security team for the head of operations, and he
Yeah.
was a volunteer on an event that I was working on. And he was leading a group of volunteers, and I just was chatting and said, are all your volunteers okay? And he said, come have a cup of tea in my car, as you do. And it's just these casual connections. And he said to me, oh, I'm pretty sure I can get you a job at Glastonbury. I didn't know who he was, so I just sent an email. And, you know, now I head up a team within the security division at Glastonbury, and I love that job. But I could have easily just said, oh, he's just a volunteer. It doesn't matter.
Of course, actually, it's something that I hear from many people, that people change jobs, and maybe someone is not able to give you a job now, but they will be able to give you a job when they have a new position. So it's really important to prove yourself and be the best you can be on the job you do.
Yeah, and just be polite and nice all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. And you did an Instagram live on the Event Planners Talk Instagram account 2 weeks ago, and you talked about surrounding yourself with professional people. And I liked your quote about having an accountant, because we as event professionals, we might not know how to do our accounts, and that's the same as people who don't do events might not know how to do events, and they should give the job to a professional event planner, and we should give the job to a professional accountant. So I really liked this example that you shared. So you said you need to surround yourself with professional people, having a good accountant or a good designer for your website. Who is in your current team that you can reach out to support your business? A designer, a copywriter, and an accountant. Who are these people? What are their jobs?
So I use different people at different times, and so there's the professional side of things. So it just drives me insane when everyone's too busy to do work because they're doing their accounts, and I just think, value your time. You're not an accountant. Maybe in a past life you were, but I certainly was never an accountant and never want to be, and I value my accountant quite a lot. And like you say, web design, social media, absolutely. I know how to do that, and I have done it for clients and for events I've worked on, but it's not what I'm really good at. So if the budget allows, I don't understand why you wouldn't use a professional. So there's, you know, the marketing, the copy, all those things, just outsource them as much as you can, and value your time. So when I was thinking before this talk today, I just thought, you know, it's a bit of a joke really, but the biggest thing I miss whilst we're not working, and so, you know, there's not as much money coming in, is having a cleaner. I hate cleaning. I'm really busy. So I'd actually much rather spend my time at a weekend even earning money, doing a really good job for my clients, and pay someone else. So it doesn't have to be the professional stuff. It's just about recognizing what you're good at and what you want to spend your time doing. But then outside of the professional and the helpful services that are there, it's just, you know, I'm sort of, I got my own business, but it's based on a freelance model. When I have a job, I work with other freelancers in a variety of different ways. So I have a really huge network of freelancers and contractors and suppliers. And I just pick the right people for the job. And there'll be people who are great in a corporate setting, people who are great, you know, for a festival, people who are trying to break into the industry, people who want some experience, people who just want to go. So it's just about having that network of people who you can call on and who have your back. And I think that's why if you try to carry everything yourself, you can fall down really quickly. So I know I've got a gang of people that, you know, anything financial, straight to the accountant. If I'm unwell, then who do I trust to go out there and represent my business?
Yeah. Very important. Surround yourself with the right people. So you did charity, you did festivals, you do corporate events. So in your opinion, would you recommend going broad or having a niche when you position yourself as a business? So for example, you can be known for the person doing only large scale events or the person doing just incentives. What is your opinion on this?
I don't know if I have an opinion. So I've obviously, my career is still super varied. And I think you naturally fall into a niche, unfortunately. So the biggest thing I had was when I worked for Cancer Research UK, and anyone in the UK will have heard of Race for Life. It's a huge event series. But I could not, for love nor money, move out of that mass participation sports sector. And I found that really frustrating because I just, at the time, I mean, you guys know me, I love running, but at the time I wasn't particularly a runner. I wasn't particularly active necessarily. I actually started running because I thought I should run because I worked on a running event. But I just couldn't get out of that situation. And I was desperate to do festivals or music events. And actually, you know, it was the fact that the smallest one of those events had 2,000 to 3,000 people there that made me attractive to the next job at Oxfam, where it was dealing with large groups of people and volunteers. So I guess you could say then my niche becomes outdoor events or mass participation events. And I never thought I wanted to work in conferences, but conferences are really exciting, or they can be, you know, there's a lot of creativity there. And you just need someone to take a chance. So I think it's great if you've got a niche and you've got something you love, go for it. I tried really hard to break out of my charity mass participation event niche. And now I find myself loving all the times I'm asked back into that. So I think rather than think about a niche almost, I sort of think, well, just know what you're good at and know where your skills lie. And, you know, don't be afraid. I think we've had a conversation about fake it till you make it. And I think that's a great way to be. But equally, you know, think about what's at stake for the person that's asking you to do that. And I've been asked to do things that I don't think I'm great at, or I think the stakes are too high to fake it. So, you know, it's about being honest with yourself. And I think there are some people with some great niches. I do think events, the skills we have are really transferable. I think the skills I've got have allowed me to work in all sorts of different situations. And you know, the outdoor events are some crazy things that you would never get at a conference. But conferences also give you great ideas around content and creativity and other things to engage people in a quite sterile environment. So, you know, everything can cross over. And I really think with the right, it's more of an attitude than a skill set almost.
Yeah, very true. I've gone on to the next question, and if our audience has any questions, please don't hesitate to ask in the comments. And how do you keep on top of all the latest industry trends, especially now that everything is so fast-paced with the virtual events?
So prior to this crazy time we live in, I always got the industry press and sign up for lots of newsletters. So I would, you know, that I might not be reading them the second they arrive, but that was really how I kept up with things. And just I hate networking. Anyone who asks me about networking, I hate it, but it is networking, you know, just chatting with friends. I've got a massive group of friends that are all in the industry, and we sort of talk about what's going on at
Yeah.
events we're working on or events we've seen. And I think that's a really, really great way to keep up. Obviously now with virtual events, things just change constantly.
Yeah.
So I've been, I think we've spoken about this. I was lucky enough to have to do a live stream last year, so I learned a lot myself then. So some of the terminology wasn't so foreign to me, but in terms of keeping up now, obviously it's part of talking to everyone, being part of a group, learning from your peers, testing the new platforms, and we've done that, you know, with the event props break shit test. That's a great way. But I sort of try every couple of weeks. I just think, right, I'll try out another couple of platforms, and I just look at what people are talking about.
Yeah.
So there might be on your Twitter chat or other chats on Twitter, on Facebook, and just look. If somebody says something and I don't know what it is, or I think it sounds interesting, then I'll go look at it.
Yeah. Yeah. We have a question from Heidi, the Mice Guru. If given the chance, would you do only corporate events?
No. I don't think so. I think I would miss it too much. The outdoors. I love being outdoors. I've had a really nice sort of balance of winter being all indoors and corporate and summer being outside in a field for the last few years. There are definite perks, you know. I don't think it's any secret you earn more money in the corporate world. Sometimes it even shocks me still how low the pay is in the outdoorsy world. But no, I think I would always, as long as I could, I would continue with this mix.
Okay, and how do you work on your personal branding?
Okay, this is a really interesting question because I've talked about it so much with so many people recently, and I just decided yesterday that I don't like this phrase, personal branding. I think a whole heap of stress comes with personal branding, and actually, what is a personal brand? It's just you. It's just your personality. So I see so many people getting hung up on logos and what their brand is and setting goals, and I don't think it's what gets you work. I'm really, really sorry, all those people that believe in it.
I think it's your work ethics, how reliable you are.
Yeah, and the more I thought about this, and I've really thought about it from doing the Instagram live, from conversations I've had with various people in the network, I actually think I earned more money before I had a logo or a brand. So that doesn't say a lot about my state of my business right now, but you know, the reality is that's not what got me jobs. And when I was thinking about this last night, and after a conversation I'd had where I just thought, do you know, this word brand is causing a lot of stress in our industry, is I thought back to, okay, if personal brand, like you say, is work ethic and it's your personality and it's what you do and what you deliver, then 4 years ago, I broke my back, which some of you guys know and a lot of people don't because I kept it quite quiet. But I really struggled for 2 years, you know. I couldn't lift heavy things, and working on outdoor events, you lift a lot of heavy stuff. I couldn't drive for 12 weeks. You know, there were just some jobs I could not do. But over that period, especially at the start, there was only one job, and they actually really asked me to do it. And I said, I cannot walk around for 12 hours. I'm really sorry. But what did happen was I had a client drive 80 miles to come pick me up for a meeting.
Wow.
I had another client that paid £40 every single day for 4 weeks to get me to and from their office in a taxi. I mean, that was a brilliant conversation because apparently they put down the phone and said, great news, Natasha's broken her back, she can work. It wasn't great news for me, but you know, I think that's what your personal brand is. That obviously any of those clients could have picked someone else. You know, Glastonbury gave me a caravan. That is not part of my package at Glastonbury. I'm supposed to sleep in a tent.
Yeah.
You know, it's your personal brand and people valuing your contribution. They could have taken someone else, but they stuck with me despite it being inconvenient for their business.
Yeah, I like this response. So yeah, personal brand is often word of mouth, repeating clients, but now times like now we can't just rely on word of mouth anymore. What do you do now to stay visible and find new clients?
Randomly, the only new client I've got during the pandemic has been word of mouth.
Yeah.
So I think word of mouth is still important, but I think what I've been doing is just trying to stay around. There are some people we just didn't hear from for months, and that's fine. There's nothing to talk about. But I got involved in the hackathon, which is obviously how we met. Totally out of my comfort zone, not something I would usually do, but from that it's just been networking, and I've met people that I just wouldn't have met, or I would have seen on social media and thought, I don't know that they'll want to be friends with me. So now I think it's about building on those connections, and I think as a freelancer or someone who's self-employed with a small business like me, you really, really rely on everyone around you, and you share work out. And I think I would never want there to be this misconception that everyone keeps work and there's a lot of competition. There obviously is competition, but we share work out. When work comes in, no man's an island. You can't do everything on your own. So I'm hoping those new connections will be where jobs come from. But equally, I've mentioned it before, there's Facebook groups, there's LinkedIn, there's all those different platforms where jobs are. And for me now, I'm sort of thinking, how can I market my business, and who can I speak to? And I think that's where having a community locally or around you, or knowing who you want to go after, that's important.
I think that was one of the questions we addressed at Eventprof Stock Twitter chats, and how do you find new connections? And I responded to this question. Actually, I didn't find many new connections, but I could develop the existing connections, which are also very important. It's not about the quantity, but also the quality of the connections you have. And now that we know each other since April, that when the hackathon took place, we actually could really build a relationship during this time. And I think it's very important to keep this and really build these relationships. And not just really look for the new ones, because you also get introduced to new connections. And I think this kind of introductions and very sustainable growth, it's very beneficial to.
It's more authentic, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's been so. I knew your name. I'd known your name for years. I knew the brand Event Planners Talk, but I hadn't really engaged properly. And the same with other people. And what's been really surprising and nice for me is how many people have said, "Oh, well, I followed you and always thought I should talk to you, but I just couldn't, or I didn't have time." And now people are saying, or I had time, or just like I say, the people I would maybe look at. So I've spoken to Kelly from Storymaker and Lizzie from Oddity, and I just would have, I say there's not competition, but they are my competition, and I might not have reached out to them in the same way in another time. So now, we've had those chats, and hopefully, we'll all work together on something, whatever that is in the future.
Yeah, so we know each other from since April, and from getting to know you, you are very collaborative, proactive, and creative, and you get stuff done. So I think I want to give you a big shout out, especially for the Digital Festival and you coming with the Digital Explorer Challenge, where we had to go and explore our cities and use the Strava app on our phones to record our steps. And by the end of the week, we saw who was the most active during the weekends they could win a prize. So I think it was a brilliant idea. I think everyone took it to their personal lives to continue recording their steps or recommending to their clients to integrate into their events. And now I'm also in Bern, and I'm also recording my steps, for example, how long it takes me to go from venue to venue. And it's such a brilliant idea. And I think these ideas that you kind of are born out of some events and they stay with you. Also for your lifestyle, I think it's very powerful. So really, you did an amazing job on this.
Oh, thank you.
And you are very collaborative, and you did it also with Megan, who also deserves the credit for this. And how do you choose your collaborations, and how do you define a good collaboration?
So I think collaborating is like something that benefits both parties or everyone involved. And I was thinking what makes that good, and it's about, obviously there's the benefit, and that's not just financial, that could be recognition, or for me with the Wellbeing Challenge, that put my name on your platform, which obviously is huge. And it's not why I did it. It's just thinking about it afterwards, actually the benefit of being involved with other people is huge. And I think you've got to have some passion around what you're getting involved in, because that's what brings the benefit around. And so it's passion and purpose, I guess. And picking collaborations, I think for me, and I've said it 100 times, is it's just about personality. And I like working with people I like and I get on with, and so you collaborate with them, and that collaboration could be something great like this talk we're doing today, which it's one type of collaboration, or your collaboration could be in a working environment. So I've said it a load of times, I don't even call people my colleagues, they're my friends 9 times out of 10, and I pick them for all sorts of reasons. But I've got a really close colleague that lives near me, and we share work all the time to some of the big projects that I've worked on recently. They've been actually her clients that I've been able to collaborate at a really senior level on those projects, and that's been great. Other collaborations are just, I absolutely know this person's got my back, and I need someone that has got my back. So right now I'd be at a festival normally. It's really high stress. I'm sort of I run the campsite. So I have, 2,000, 3,000 campers, got a team on site, and I'm on call 24 hours. I need someone there who's got my back. So then I collaborate with the person that I absolutely know will have my back. And I always say, whether they agree with me or we disagree about how things are happening, I know they'll do them the way I've asked them to do, and then they all come back to me afterwards. And I think it's that having your back that leads to some really great collaborations. So I always work with, not always, a lot of the time I work with a security company who really had my back in a collaboration. I'd asked for an entrance to a festival arena to be closed. The person who took the radio message said, no, it's below your pay grade to ask for that. And the security team who knew me said, no, she actually knows what she's talking about. If she said that gate needs to be closed, you should be closing it like 5 minutes ago. And it's that's what I think makes a good collaboration, that you can trust someone and they're on your wavelength.
Yeah, absolutely. We're coming now to our last question. So if anyone from the audience has a question, please do so now. So now that many events are canceled and we all have high uncertainty, do you take the time to upskill and reskill yourself in new areas?
Yeah, I think that's been really important. Obviously, there's not been a lot of work around recently, so we've definitely had to upskill if you want to look at live events. And I know, virtual events. And I know loads of people immediately said, oh no, it's not for me, I'm just waiting, work will come back. But the talks you've already had this morning have just said the future is hybrid, and virtual's here to stay. So actually, when we go back to live events, understanding virtual is really, really important.
Absolutely.
So you already know I've done quite a lot of research, and I've been running some webinars. On the back of running those webinars, I've done a little bit of video editing, and I'm not going to put anyone out of work, but again, it's a skill I can do, and I can use that in an emergency situation. You know, if a speaker is on site and they need a video cutting down, I know how to do that. But also, you know, beyond the current situation, I've taken my health and safety NEBOSH exam, which I signed up for years ago, and I've just been too busy. So I've been upskilling in that area, and I had some very, very basic AutoCAD skills and design skills. So I've been trying to learn a little bit more. Again, it's not to take that work away from the experts, because we've already talked about it, but sometimes you literally just need to move a square box on a CAD plan, and it is so much quicker to know how to do that, or know how to measure a dimension.
Yeah, I think it's also important to understand certain areas like design or cameras. So when you do work with an expert, you can also have certain expectations and understand their work. So I think it's important to be informed about these areas as well.
Yeah, I think so. And I've done in the past done sound and light courses, and I'm probably the world's most annoying people to those professionals, but I understand what's there on the quote, so it's really useful.
Yeah, I think not many people understand this, but it's a good skill to have when you work with sound technicians. Okay, Natasha, we are going to close off our interview. Thank you very much for your insights and valuable input. And in case anyone has a question to you or wants to work with you, how can they get in touch with you?
So LinkedIn obviously is really easy. I'm Natasha Russell Events on LinkedIn. I'm Natasha Russell Events on Instagram. On Twitter, it's a weird hybrid of personal and professional, so it's at @TashJill, and you can also search for Natasha Russell Events on Facebook. And I've got a website, so fairly easy to find, hopefully. And people, you know, I take part in the Twitter chat, so hopefully people can contact me, send me any questions they've got. Really easy.
Excellent. Thank you so much. I wish you an excellent day today. Enjoy your weekend, and we'll speak soon.
Cheers. Thanks, Arina.
Thank you everyone for watching. Bye.